You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I am Ashley Hardgrave, joined this week by Oliver Camacho and Matt Cummings. All right, this week we go Inside the Huddle with Vanessa Becerra. The Peruvian and Mexican American soprano is set to make her Chicago Opera Theater debut in the title role in Ferdinando Paer's Leonora. She joins OBS for a frank conversation about how she distinguished herself as an artist and how her Latina identity opened up new opportunities. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, can we get through without naming the patron of Operalia? I'm certainly going to try. Hey, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. You're going to click follow on Apple Podcasts. You're just going to hit that little plus sign. You can also send us a voice memo or you can email us your hot takes. That's going to be at mailbag@operaboxscore.com, or you can just record your thoughts using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website. That's at operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you're going to get yourself an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger, just like the one sitting next to me on my desk, just for sharing your own hot take. Folks, it's really lovely to see you. Oliver Camacho, how are you, buddy?
I'm so great. And me and all the other Carlos Alcaraz fans breathed a sigh of relief after this weekend because he's back, baby. Like, after a disappointing U.S. Open and the crushing loss of the gold medal at the Olympics, we thought that Alcaraz was maybe in the dumps and maybe needed to work a little bit on his psychological game. But he participated in the team representing Europe. It's so funny. They divide the teams Europe and the world. And they pair up these players who are really rivals, but they all are on teams together and they play team style. And it's actually a really fun event. And Carlos Alcaraz single-handedly helped Europe reclaim the Labour Cup title, which they had not had for the past 4 years. So, and he was just so joyful in doing it. And there's lots of his antics and smiles and joking and celebrating that just made everybody so happy to see. And I'm one of them.
And Matt Cummings, were you just as elated at the reclinching of the cup?
I certainly was, and I just want to get ahead of the rumors and say that I'm not only here because Oliver sent bounty hunters after me to get me back onto the show.
You're here to welcome back Ashley from Scotland.
Most importantly.
It's correct. I had a freaking great time. Let me tell you, the only word I can use to describe this trip is majestic, because that is exactly how I feel about Scotland. My only goals, besides getting away, were to see some magnificent, breathtaking views and interact with some farm animals and to drink a little bit. And I got to do all of those things. Y'all, I sheared a sheep. I hung out with a shepherd in the Scottish Highlands and I learned about sheepdogs and I sheared a sheep. Not with clippers. No, with actual scissors. It was magnificent. Many other things. I could talk about this all day. What would you like to know about Scotland? I clearly know everything since I spent a week there.
What was the best thing you ate?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Okay, this is going to sound so silly. There were these packaged cheeses. They were little snack cheeses that were available in a lot of the different tourist attractions. There's always these snack bars there. And they were not quite the size of a string cheese, but it's this really intense, beautiful. There was a red Gloucester. There was a double Gloucester. When I tell you, any place I saw those, including the breakfast bar at my final hotel, I hoarded those cheeses. I hoarded all of those cheeses. And in terms of the best thing I drank, I know Scotland is known for, guess what? Scotch. The sleeper hit? Gin. They have excellent gin. In fact, I brought an entire bottle of gin back with me.
Those factories aren't going to run without it.
Absolutely not. And neither am I. Let's talk some opera.
Huddle up. Let's go Inside the Huddle.
Soprano Vanessa Becerra, a new Chicago resident I found out during this interview,
Yay, welcome.
is set to make her debut in the title role of Ferdinando Paer's Leonora. Out of some merry coup of collaboration, Lyric Opera of Chicago is set to present Fidelio, and both of these operas share the same source material, and it was planned. So the Ferdinando Paer Leonora coming from the start of the 19th century, really fits into the model of what we think of early bel canto, post-Mozart territory. And the singing is just bonkers, coloratura, and we're going to talk about that. But as Ashley said at the top of the show, Vanessa is of Peruvian and Mexican descent. So we'll also talk about that since it's National Hispanic Heritage Month. Vanessa Becerra, welcome to Opera Box Score. You're going to be singing Leonora in the Ferdinando Paer Leonora, which is the same story as Fidelio. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I was thinking about this opera and thinking about the type of singer that sings, 18th century, I guess, bel canto / opera seria. And it's definitely not the same singer that sings the Leonora in the Beethoven opera.
No.
But maybe you would sing Marcellina in that opera.
I have sung Marcellina in that opera, yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm on the right track. So I just want the audience to know what type of singer we're talking about here. And when one goes to your website and looks, because your about page is brilliant. So many singers their about pages, you have to sort of dig and try to find the information you want, but yours is really well laid out. So whoever built your website, congratulations to them.
Gosh, I'm so critical because I made it.
Oh, good.
Oh gosh, thanks.
No, it really helps to understand your trajectory. And I would say that, just looking at it, having not really heard a lot of your singing, I see the arc. I see that, you have this, for lack of a better term, soubrette voice type with coloratura ability, and that you have been getting cast in these types of things. But just by looking at the repertoire, it seems that you have curiosity as well, and you don't want to be stuck in Inas and Ettas. And so the solution for you, or for the people who manage you, seems to be, get her into sort of bizarro repertoire that doesn't have any comparisons, so that you can do something original and you can create something that feels more Vanessa Becerra. Is that a sort of a good reading of what I see in your about?
Very well. That's better articulated than I've ever heard it. Yeah.
Oh, well, can you talk about then what it means to I don't know, you can choose a work. I see a new work called The Copper Queen. I see a show called La Mujer, El Milagro del Recuerdo. I see an opera called Rise and an opera called With Blood with Ink. Which of those is you feel is critical to who you are as a singer, if not all of them? So
I just think, the way what you just mentioned, how there is you can see the clear signs of growth in my voice and my career. Yes, I used to joke and say every opera has an Ina. Every opera needs a cousin or a nanny or a nurse or something. And so I'm happy that it's always there. Every Mozart opera, there is some sort of Ina Anna. So I'm happy to be useful in those ways. But it has been very cool and exciting to dig into some of these leading lady roles. I'm going to talk about specifically Copper Queen, because that one, I am not the cousin. I'm not the sidekick. I was very much this show, you're the title role. And it's funny. I used to think about that, title role or title. And wow, there is a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And I really enjoy it. I do really enjoy it. But I think I especially enjoy it for these lesser known pieces because I don't know, at a certain point, people already know which version of Susanna they love, and they know which Adina is their favorite. And if you don't live up to those standards, then you can be disappointed. That's not everybody. I think there are a lot of people who are happy to say oh, that's nowhere near like the one that I normally listen to, but at least she did her best. I like the fact that this is fresh, and so people, for better or worse, just don't know what to expect or what it might be like, and then the opinion can be truly brand new and authentic and based on
they're hearing the music for the first time, and they're associating you with that music. They have no idea how to compare it.
There's nothing to compare to. Exactly. So I love that, but also not even just vocally. I enjoy that in all of the interpretive ways. Like I love to get into the story. I don't know if I would ever say that like I'm an actor first, but I do put a lot of importance, just as much. I try to make it as equal. I want to be really good at singing, and I also want to be really good at acting. So that's exciting for me because then it's an experiment for everybody to watch. Like, well, let's see how she does it.
Well, in some of these roles that I don't recognize, I've never heard this music. I see, it would appear to me that, Spanish is a language you've been singing in. Is that true?
I have sung a lot in Spanish. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a lot. I don't know about a lot. I have played roles who are Latina or Hispanic. I've played a
Okay.
lot, but like for instance, with Blood with Ink is based on a Mexican figure, but that was in English.
Was that, Sor Juana de la Cruz? Like,
But that was in English. So
okay. So, do you speak Spanish? Are you bilingual?
I call myself conversational.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom is from Lima, Peru, and my dad's side of the family is Mexican American. So I am definitely Hispanic. I identify that way. But I just in my household, my mom, I think she just had the idea that like this is my American daughter. I'm going to make her American.
I mean, I'm older than you, but my parents are both immigrants, and they were in the U.S. in the time when it was really important to assimilate, like erase your heritage.
Yeah, I'm so annoyed. But
Yeah.
like I understand, I get it. I can't like falter for that, but it is annoying. Like my grandma, I spoke Spanish only with my grandma. I only spoke in Spanish, and like some of my aunts and uncles, I still chit chat in Spanish, but that muscle is very weak. So anytime I'm around Spanish speakers, I'll shift into that gear
Mhm.
as well as I can, but then I inevitably like forget a word or a tense, and then I get
Yeah.
embarrassed.
No, I mean, my Spanish pronunciation is very good. And I mean, I work hard to make all my languages that authentic sounding. But I guess because I heard Spanish a lot, especially working in restaurants, like I have a very good ear for Spanish. And sometimes people in the classical music community assume I speak Spanish, and they start like asking me questions about like whatever vocabulary or like grammar. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say like that's so racist. Do you think I would know the answer to that question? But I guess I present myself as somebody who
No,
might have.
that's such a good point. No, because I would love to be able to be the like translator. I want to, and as if I can, I'll do it. But if you're asking me a hyper specific thing about like I don't know economics or something like, no, I'm not going to know that. I can tell
Yeah.
you other information.
Yeah. We could talk about, I can tell people like, I need that plate back really quick. Can you wash it for me? Like,
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
so we are recording this and broadcasting this in National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah.
I do see that you do have some Hispanic or Latin American initiatives in some of your work. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So specifically, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I was born and raised there, and I got involved with the chorus there. Well, technically, for the first time when I was in sixth grade, I was in the Children's Chorus of Carmen, and then from my senior year of high school all through undergrad, because I went to TCU, Texas Christian University. I was always in the chorus. So Fort Worth Opera is like very much a home for me. That's where I had my professional debut in with Blood with Ink. And I've made it very clear to the company, like for anything, please, like use me. I love being a Fort Worth girl. I'm happy to do whatever I can to, just keep Fort Worth Opera interesting or whatever. So I was really thankful. Yeah, Afton Battle, she contacted me a few years ago and asked me if I would be interested in curating or collaborating with Fort Worth Opera to do something for Hispanic Heritage Month. And so I worked with my colleague Claudia Chapa, and we were able to put together. We had the vision always to say yes, let's honor Spanish opera, Spanish art songs, Spanish classical music, but also we're not only made up of classical stuff. I think everybody involved in this ensemble that we made, we all had some sort of Mexican roots. So like they wanted to share their rancheros and their boleros, and like they wanted to do their songs that they grew up singing. For me, I actually was super limited in that knowledge because I did not grow up around music like that. Like my mom, I had a very young mom, so we were listening to like freestyle and hip hop and all that stuff. And so like I don't know these classics, but I got to learn a lot. And yeah, we had worked with this mariachi trio in Houston whenever we did the premiere of El Milagro del Recuerdo. And so Claudia, myself, we had a tenor, a baritone, and this trio, and an amazing Colombian pianist. And we put together a program that got to highlight each of us to do some classical repertoire, some stuff from pieces that people know really well, some pieces that people don't really know. And then the second half, we decided to do more like a jam session. Like we had mezcal on stage and we were like singing and drinking and just kind of, we did a medley style. So each soloist did a number and we were just kind of jamming with the trio and the piano, and then ended with some fun. We did Piel Canela to end just because that's always, get you out of your chair. And yeah.
Did you learn any new techniques like mariachi singing technique?
I
really don't know how they do it.
The most impressive thing ever. I don't know if you're familiar with Vanessa Alonso. She's been involved in all three of the mariachi operas that trilogy that they've featured here at Lyric and all over the world really. But anyway, she has a throw on her that could like kick all of our butts in classical world, because the technical facility is the same. Like you have to be able to like really rely on air and like control and efficient, like specific I don't know, I would just say like control. It's
yeah, no, the way the chords come together, it sounds like they're spreading every note.
Amazing. I've just watched. I'm like, I want my voice teacher to like.
What is that? Yeah. I know. Yeah, and we have this group here in Chicago that teaches mariachi to kids. They're like high school kids, and I've heard them perform, and they sound like 40-year-old adults.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah. Well, it was a far-fetched idea, but in Fort Worth, there is Northside High School, which is right in Northside. Fort Worth is where like the most saturated area of like Mexicans and like Mexican population. It's so cool. It's like right next to the stockyard. It's very historic. And that high school, they have a whole mariachi ensemble, and I was like, oh my god, let's get the high school involved, let's get the ballet folklorico involved. Yeah. Let's celebrate this, because we're in Fort Worth. Like we actually made a concerted decision. I mean, it probably also cost way too much money to rent like the big fancy opera house in Fort Worth. But we were like, why are we asking this community to come to us? Like we should go to them.
Exactly. Meet them where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are so many reasons. It's not just Hispanics or Latinos. There's so many reasons for why people are kind of like intimidated or nervous about going to opera. But if we are going to do a concert that's specifically, to embrace and engage with these people of our city, then like, let's go to you. And so we performed at this historic theater called the Rosemarine. And it was like right next to literally where my grandma used to work at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and like Joe T. Garcia's, which is this famous like Mexican restaurant in town. And, it's right there. It made way, way, way more sense than us trying to say like, come feel nervous and concerned about what to wear. Like, no, just go to the theater that you already are familiar with.
Well, this is going to be a complicated question, and I don't even know how to ask it. So feel free to just interrupt me when you hear what you want to respond to. But I feel like it's complicated for Hispanic Americans in classical music, because a lot of us can present white. Not me, but there are plenty who can. And there is a history, we have a lineage, singers like Ramon Vargas and Francisco Araiza, and going back to other generations, like Bidu Sayu, like people who like have Latin American heritage. And so we've always been sort of included in classical music, especially in opera. But we're now in this time where we're more aware of our identity, and I think we want to be more proud of our identity. And yet I don't feel like there is that much outreach to the Hispanic American community. Yes, we are represented on stage, but we're not trying to draw those audiences in. Do you hear something in there that you want to address?
It's so nuanced. There's so many like layers upon layers upon layers. And I mean, I don't want to say that this is like tricky for me, but I do feel very lucky that, I was just talking about this community that like Northside Fort Worth, that's where like a lot of my family lives, and like all of my sisters and siblings, they all went through that, like whatever that public middle school is and that public high school is. And I grew up with my mom on the other side of town, and she was like, oh my gosh, this little girl is always singing. Let me send her to this fine arts academy. And the fine arts academy just happened to be cheaper than the private school that she was like struggling to keep me going to, because she wanted me to have this like safe situation, which I think that those roots are very like, I'm an immigrant and I want to make sure I want to make sure my daughter has a quality like educational experience. And the only way, I don't trust the public school, so I have to send her to a Catholic school. And then thankfully this fine arts academy just opened and it's a little bit cheaper. And I think she likes to sing. And then 5th grade until I graduated high school, like changed my whole entire life. I was around all sorts of different kids, but I would say definitely majority white. And I socialized that way with them. I socialized in like a very whitewashed way, I guess, if you want to call it that way. I wasn't like, nobody was there embracing like Latin culture or Hispanic heritage. Like it was just sort of a bunch of kids, a bunch of weirdos who liked to sing and dance and make music. And that experience is so profound and ended up being so huge for me that like I forget sometimes to remember about this like race relation and the race stuff, because my experience was so much like not like, it was completely
it was not about identity until you became a professional.
Yeah, it just happened. It was like just about passion and fun and like let's trust each other and learn how to do. And so I mean, that place saved me. I can only imagine what my life would have been like, because I probably would have gone to some public school and like been in choir and liked to sing. I wouldn't have been exposed to Jenny Skiki as a freshman in high school, which that is what changed. Like, I mean, going to the school changed everything, and then discovering other styles of music other than like pop, because I just wanted to be Selena or like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. And yeah, freshman year came and I didn't audition for the opera. I just went to it because my boyfriend at the time was in it. And I got like, I was head over heels. I was sold. Like, yeah, great. Let's do this.
Well, I grew up in Chicago. People have heard a version of this story before, so I'll say it very quickly. But I grew up in Chicago, went to public school. I had a great mentor who was Latino. He was actually a very renowned educator. And I just never thought about identity until I went to college. I went to Northwestern, and suddenly I realized, oh, I'm not like these people, and not just, racial identity, but also economically, I am not like these people.
I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly how it was, because I almost said it's called FWAFA. We call it FWAFA, Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts. FWAFA was such a safe, fun, like enjoyable little shelter, like our haven. Everybody loved it. We were so happy there. And then I got a full ride scholarship to TCU, which that's hard to turn down. I didn't want to stay in Fort Worth, but like I'm not in an economic position. My parents are not in the place to entertain any other option than like a free full ride. So of course I went, and I was so disappointed. I was so disheartened, and just like I could feel the chip on my shoulder growing, because I was so upset that like why was high school so fun and safe and everybody was included and there's no exclusivity and it was not like, I don't know, just political. And then I discovered TCU, and I hate to talk badly about them because they gave me an enormous gift. They gave me all sorts of amazing opportunities, but that experience, realizing like, oh, I'm a brown person here. I got a full ride, and I'm singing at these events, and I'm learning donor relations, patron stuff. And I was also, I learned then to be nervous that like, what if somebody asks me to go get a drink? What if somebody asks me to pick up the plate for them?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing, that I had never felt until I got to TCU.
I mean, I had people when I was in college, after I performed as an undergrad, come up to me and tell me that my English was very good. I was like, thanks. Anyway, so you're singing this bonkers role.
Yes.
I listened to some of this opera, and it reminds me of Baroque opera seria. It's a little bit past what we call Baroque opera. It's more, coming after Mozart in a way. And we don't hear a lot of this era in opera these days because I think we just moved on. We decided that, okay, the best representation of this era is Mozart, because some of these composers did not know how to rein it in and how to like keep, the music relevant to the text. Mozart was a master at this, so it's not even fair, But nevertheless, this opera has interest. It has a fantastic story. And you are singing bonkers music all the time. What has the experience been like for you?
I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, we touched briefly on Fidelio's Leonora, and the instrument that sings that role we're not the same at all. Like I'm not gonna get there. Who knows if I ever will? But I think the story is very, very good, which even if there are occasionally some musical parts that I like, it's long term, it's not like 100 out of 100. It's like 91 out of 100 for me. Specifically the recit. Oh my God, the recits in this are poorly written, very poorly. And recits famously, you need to give that a lot of significance, because that's where really the plot moves along, is in the recit that's preceding some aria where you just like say the same thing over and over and over again. But anywho, I'm a fan. I think it's like if Mozart and Cimarosa and Cherubini and a little bit of Rossini all came together and said, let's make this piece. And so it's very familiar. I like this sort of writing. It's sort of the same way that Mozart is. It's medicinal. It's like, you're not going to get through this unless you have a really healthy approach. So it's like always testing me, like, oh, okay, yeah, I probably overexerted there. Or
don't forget your technique. Yeah.
Which all music and any role, you can't forget technique. But this one, it's really nice that like it can be effortless because it's based on such a like a classic, these 5-note scales, a 6-note scale. Yeah. That's all like very good. Those are like nice stretches and warm.
Yeah. The stuff that we practice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I'm enjoying it, and there are some tunes that are, I think, really special, and just like anything else, there's some tunes that we could probably do without.
Well, in this era of opera, the idea of putting the singers, especially the heroines, there are comic characters in this show, or there are no comic. Okay, so putting the serious characters through their paces is a way to show the audience that this person is virtuous. Because I can sing 8 bars of coloratura, it means that I'm a faithful person, or that I'm strong, or like whatever, Well, you are lucky to be collaborating with Jane Glover as the conductor. I don't know how, COT and Jane Glover famously have a relationship, but that she would agree to learn an opera
Yeah, an opera that Dame Jane Glover doesn't already know. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And I understand you sang Glauce with her back in Omaha. Just for the young artists out there or the fledgling artists out there, can you just comment on showing up to Omaha and, doing the job well so that you can establish a relationship with somebody like Jane Glover when you're just getting started?
Yeah. My advice is bad because I think for better or worse, I just kind of didn't really know who she was, and so it's well, okay, actually, just for historical accuracy, technically, she and I met in 2017
Okay.
before Omaha. We
Okay.
did a show. We did Cinderella by Alma Deutscher, who
Okay.
was
Oh, yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah. She was in the womb when she wrote that.
Yes, exactly. And so Jane and I collaborated on that, and I was singing Cinderella in that. So that's where I really got to know her. And even better was not knowing her then, because 2017 was my first year that I started to take freelance professional work outside of, like, I officially graduated from LA Opera. So LA Opera, the Young Artist Program, I felt like that was like 2 more years of school, kind of, it's like extended training. So I was especially dumb about who was who, and including Jane Glover. But I loved working with her. She is not shy to tell you, like, that wasn't great. And I think, I have no sensitivity about people telling me if something was bad. Like, just tell me. I can't hear anything. Like, the curse that singers have is that in my head, whenever I'm like, oh, that sounded good, my teacher's always like, no, that was pushed, that was pressed. And then whenever I hear it in my head and I was like, oh, that's not good, teacher always says, there you go, that's right. So I can't trust what I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
so why I'm not going to take it personally if anybody's like, that's not right. Like, okay, cool, then work with me and help me, hold my hand and tell me, was that right, was that okay? And I'll memorize that, and I'll try to, like, make sure my body always feels that thing. So all that to say, I think Jane and I are a good combination as far as, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings, and I know that you're not afraid to tell me when something isn't good. So
Yeah. Be direct. Yeah.
yeah, I totally, I appreciate, I need that. That's how I feel about a director too. Like, I'm trusting your eyes to tell me whether or not that looks stupid. And if you don't tell me and I find out later that it was stupid, then I'm going to be upset because you could have just told me that was dumb.
Okay.
No, just tell me this is the time now before, people get to say their opinions, and they paid for a ticket to see it. Like, that sucks. Give them
Yeah.
something. Give them a good thing.
Well, we're so out of time already, but I wanted to give you a chance to highlight anybody that you met on this production. You're like, oh my gosh, like, where have you been?
Oh yeah. I mean, so I am a huge fan. There are two sopranos in this show, and I've sung Marcellina in the Beethoven, and then in this one, Marcellina is like a high stratospheric.
Yeah. It's like the Blunt and Constanza relationship. Yeah.
That's exactly the right comparison. Yes. Keely Futterer is, I don't understand how there's one human who her voice can do the things that it does. Like, it is so.
So this is an audio format, but you're like pointing at sound coming out of her skull.
I'm trying to define space.
Yeah, above her eyebrows is where the sound is coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, up here, she can sing a high Q, X, Y, Z. Like, it is, I don't understand how her instrument works, but it is so exciting to listen to her. I'm so proud of her. We met in Minnesota a couple seasons ago, and yeah, I think she's incredible. And then the tenor, the Florestan, I had never heard of him. He's been based in Spain for a while, and he's like a very well-established European tenor, but Edgardo Rocha.
Rocha. So is he's or is he?
He's from Uruguay.
Oh, okay, okay. And maybe he thinks you speak Spanish fluently, so he starts talking to you in Spanish right away. And
He starts in Spanish, and like with most people, I answer in English.
Okay.
But I know what he's saying. But I've really loved meeting him and working with him. He's been great. He's been lovely to work with. So everybody in the room has been awesome. I'm so glad to be reunited with Jane. And this is my first time to ever work with Larry, which has also been awesome. He knows what's up. knows how to get the thing done.
Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being a guest on Opera Box Score.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Marcellina's aria, not Leonora's aria, from Beethoven's Fidelio.
Oh, we're just dripping with synergy over here.
Oh, we're going.
That's from a recent performance from Austin Opera. My thanks to Vanessa Becerra, and of course, thanks to the publicity team at Chicago Opera Theater for giving us access to Vanessa. That was the last day of the room rehearsal when we recorded that, and so they're definitely in tech right now. Since we talked about it in the interview, before we jump into the 2-minute drill, who are the Latin American singers that we know, like off the top of our head? For me, they're all tenors. It's Francisco Araiza and Juan Diego Flores and Rolando Villazon. And
Ramon Vargas, always overlooked, I would say. But
no, I like Ramon Vargas.
My one of my favorites of the bunch.
Unsurprisingly, the soprano in the corner, although she doesn't sound like it when she speaks, says Eileen Perez, Nadine Sierra.
Yes. I want to shout out Jose Cura, who I've always had a huge, huge crush on, and maybe sings the most scary Mamma quel vino è generoso from Cavalleria Rusticana. You should look up that video. What about the lower male voices? And any mezzos we could think of?
Not singing today. I mean, if you go back to Operalia Dominguez.
Yeah. So we got to work on that, I think. Mexican mezzo, step up.
This just in, the 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
Operalia has crowned its 2024 champions. A full breakdown after the drill.
The Atlanta Opera will soon have a new home. Plans are in the works to turn the historic Bobby Jones Clubhouse into a new space for the arts organization, including a nature-like recital hall, theater venue, and education spaces. This new permanent home for the Atlanta Opera ensures the right fit for our current and future growth, said General and Artistic Director Thomas Vulin.
In a detailed Facebook post, University of Northern Colorado alumna Jasmine Perry Grice detailed her experience being groomed and pressured into a sexual relationship with her former voice teacher, Christy Muzio, and her husband, Ben. She describes being given alcohol as an underage student, receiving inappropriate and explicit messages, and eventually engaging in sexual acts. Muzio now teaches at Rocky Mountain College.
Chorus members of the Welsh National Opera have paused their planned industrial action. The performers were due to strike in September over proposed pay cuts and compulsory redundancies, but members have now said productive discussions with WNO management over the past week have led to further conversations. The members will still be taking action short of a strike to coincide with the opening night of Rigoletto. All this without a single open letter? We're skeptical.
Researchers in Leipzig recently unearthed a piece for string trio by Mozart, possibly written in the composer's teenage years. The handwritten manuscript dates to around 1780, said head of research at the International Mozarteum Ulrich Leisinger. We simply have to be careful. There are many pieces that are attributed to Mozart. To then stand up and say, we are convinced that this is a piece by the young Mozart, it takes a lot of work.
I have faith in you, International Mozarteum Ulrich Leisinger. This year's Opera Italiana is for all concert in Central Park comes as pop culture's interest in opera seems to be on the upswing. Quote, the problem with opera is access. Over the past 50 years, opera was wrongly perceived to belong to high society, attended mainly by old people, but today opera can be shared with anybody, said founder and music director Alvisa Castellati. And Ashley, screaming all day, every day.
That's some hard-hitting journalism there by Forbes. We mere mortals outside of Cannes are still waiting to see Maria, But Academy Award-winning actress Davine Joy Randolph is already riding the buzz about the biopic to plant the seed for her next big role, Leontine Price. "I'm a classically trained opera singer. I want to do a biopic of an opera singer," said Randolph.
Her lips to God's ears. Meanwhile, Tulsa Opera may have to rearrange its budget to pay for the replacement of its office front door, which was shattered by vandals last week and is not covered by insurance.
In major award news, friend of the show Michael Mays has been nominated for the German Der Faust Prize for Best Performance in Musical Theater or Opera in Olivier Messiaen's Saint-François d'Assise at Staatsoper Stuttgart. The other nominees include Elena Garancha and Asmik Grigorian.
Gramophone magazine has shortlisted 3 opera recordings for their 2024 awards. Louise Bertin's Fausto from Les Talents Lyriques, led by Christophe Rousset. Parsifal, starring Jonas Kaufmann and Elena Garancha, conducted by Philippe Jourdain. And the DVD of Barry Kosky's production of Katya Kabanova from the Salzburg Festival. Friend of the show Jonathan Tettleman's The Great Puccini is up for the solo voice category. And he's joined by Véronique Jean's Paysage and Michael Spires' In the Shadows. Good luck to all nominees, and may you all see the OBS bump in CD sales.
In trade news, Royal Opera Festival in Krakow has named Spanish conductor José Miguel Pérez Sierra as its new musical and artistic director. He's the first Spaniard to take on the position at Poland's renowned opera festival. The conductor will continue his position as music director of Teatro de la Zarzuela in Madrid, as well as principal conductor of the Ópera de La Coruña.
English National Opera has announced that Harry Brunges is stepping down from his role as chair of the ENO and London Coliseum at the end of their upcoming season. In a statement, Brunges said, "It has been an immense privilege to have served as chair of ENO. I will continue to support ENO as it moves into its next chapter with great optimism as it approaches its centenary." Some folks seem pleased with this news. More in the talkback.
Olga Peretyatko has been named the Kammersängerin of the Staatsoper Hamburg. The soprano announced the news via social media and said, "The Hamburg State Opera holds a special place in my heart as it is where I first started as a student in the opera studio. Every time I return, it feels like coming home."
Exit stage right, German opera director Peter Brenner has died at age 94. Brenner was chief opera director at the Städtische Bühne Freiburg and Theater Bremen throughout the 70s, served as artistic director of the Darmstadt State Theater from 1984 to 1991, and in that same role at the Mainz State Theater from 1991 to 99. Brenner also directed operas at major houses, including the Salzburger Festival, Bayerische Staatsoper, Hamburger Staatsoper, Welsh National Opera, and Zurich.
Beloved soprano Lucine Amara has died at age 99. A stalwart member of the Metropolitan Opera, Amara made her house debut at 25 as the celestial voice and went on to sing at the house a total of 748 times, often in leading roles. Amara was known for her versatility and her deep knowledge of the repertoire, which often allowed her to jump in at a moment's notice to rescue a performance when a star singer was indisposed.
And on this day, September 24th, first performances include Johann Adolf Hasse's Tito Vespasiano in Dresden in 1735, Christoph Willibald von Gluck's Le Cinese in Vienna, I'm not sure about that title, in 1754, another Gluck joint, Echo et Narcisse in Paris in 1779. In 1782 was the first performance of Jean-Frédéric Edelmann's Ariane dans l'île de Naxos. That premiered in Paris. In 1819, in Naples, it was the first performance of Rossini's La Donna del Lago. In London in 1892 was the first performance of Arthur Sullivan's Haddon Hall. In 1906, Victor Herbert's The Red Mill premiered in the Knickerbocker Theater in New York. In 1954, Henk Badding's Orestes, an opera for radio, premiered in Florence. Not sure how that works. And in 1989, it was the first performance of Leonardo Ballada's Cristobal Colon, an opera that premiered in Barcelona with Jose Carreras in the title role. In 1907, we begin some birthdays. American conductor and pianist Edwin MacArthur, who was known as the accompanist to Kirsten Flagstad. In 1907, soprano Lina Bruna Rasa was born in Padua. 1913 saw the birth of German-based Max Probstel in Munich. Polish composer Andrzej Panufek was born in Warsaw in 1914. The great American baritone Cornell McNeil was born this day in 1922. He was joined that day by Italian baritone, another great, Ettore Bastianini. What a day in opera history. 1927 saw the birth of Spanish tenor Alfredo Kraus in the Canary Islands. And happy birthday to English conductor and composer John Rutter, born this day, September 24th, in 1945.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
A real embarrassment of riches to choose from in terms of who could have been the outro clip, but how could we pick anyone other than the wonderful, the incandescent Lucina Mara? That was an excerpt of her singing Stridono lassù from Pagliacci, Nedda's aria. One of the very few recordings of Amara that's available to purchase. That's a recording from the performance at the Metropolitan Opera with Nello Santi conducting. She was a singer who I've heard and read so much about because she seemed to be like omnipresent in the New York opera scene for decades because she could truly cover any role, and did often have the chance to perform as the initially billed soprano as well because she was really beloved in the Met, particularly under like Rudolph Bing in that era before James Levine like really got his claws into the management of the Met. She was like one of the absolute go-tos there. And it's too bad that there aren't more monuments to her artistry and her talent because she's a really wonderful singer.
Maybe she can be a sleeper Hall of Fame for us at some point. Maybe we can give her due. Hey, Operalia happened. Let's talk about it.
Well, before we talk about the actual, winners, congratulations to them, by the way. Why does this give us like... why does this make us itchy, talking about this competition?
We're not going to do it. We're not going to say it.
I know. We don't have to say his name, but like this is still probably the most important contest you can win as an opera singer.
As a young singer, yeah. I mean, like a youngish professional.
I mean,
singer.
what are the other options? Singer of the World that they do like every 10 years these days with the renovations.
But I mean, honestly, like if you look at the list of winners from Operalia, so many of them had been anointed at this competition. Anthony Leon, for example, who just won 2 years ago, he's getting all the work now. Mane Galoyan, who is making her debut in Rigoletto here in Chicago. I heard her sing in La Traviata at Santa Fe. So it's clear that, everybody's paying attention to this contest.
Yeah.
It's just weird. And they all have to take a picture with the patron and kiss the ring or bend the knee, or what do you want to call it. And sometimes we see during the, while the judges are counting the votes, they play these packages and Joyce DiDonato will get up and talk about what a wonderful experience she had, and you'll see a picture of her, smiling next to him.
That guy.
Yeah. So it's
he's in every picture.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately it is. It's it's kind of the kingmaker of our current landscape. And I will be very interested to see if anybody tries to sort of take that. It's also interesting to me that it was in Mumbai this year, which I thought was just interesting. I know they go everywhere, but I just, Mumbai. I was looking at Seen and Heard International, which is an online publication, and their title for it was Operalia 2024 in Mumbai: a mixed bag.
Oh.
So that was their
Getting
initial
a little
assessment.
Spicy.
But
No
I'm
pun
sure
intended.
Oliver can be just as spicy, so go for it.
Well, the big winners were bass baritone Le Bu. And I guess in the final round, he sang the Dutchman's Monologue Die Frist ist
Mm-hmm.
And we have an American as the female winner. It sounds so strange.
Singing a real banger. Depuis le jour.
Yeah, that's Kathleen
And Jamal.
O'Mara. In the Sarsuela category, first place went to Elmina Hassan.
Double winner for the evening.
Singing something from The Daughters of Zebedee. Don't know what that is. And Angel Romero. He's American, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Singing something from The Guest of the Civilian.
And then they actually both took second place in the overall contest.
Oh, wow.
Where he
Okay.
sang Una furtiva lagrima, and she sang the aria from Tchaikovsky's Maid of Orleans.
Cool. Audience prize went to Elmina.
And to Jack Lee.
A British baritone who sang Largo in the final round.
Largo al Factotum, not Handel's Largo.
Al Factotum. The one and only. The competition song for baritones.
And then this competition acknowledges that there are some people who, they sing differently, and maybe at this point in their career, we don't hear the full potential, but you have to be able to recognize it in this stage. And they call that the Birgit Nilsson Prize, which somehow went to Kathleen O'Mara and Lebu. So
Yes, famous opera by Wagner or Strauss, Louise.
Yes. Depuis la Chute. Yeah, I was going to try to make a German joke there, but never mind.
So both Kathleen and Lebu won big, and so did Angel and Elmina. So congratulations to those four singers who really brought it home for their respective countries. Elmina, by the way, is from Azerbaijan. What else do we want to say about this?
A lot of U.S. winners between Kathleen O'Mara in first place, Angel Romero in second place, and then two of the three third place winners were also American mezzo-sopranos, Sun Lee Pierce and Meridian Prawl.
I heard Meridian Prawl at Opera Theater St. Louis singing Cornelia in Julius Caesar, and she was the best thing about the show. I mean, Emily Pogarelz obviously is incredible, and so is Kiman Murat, but Meridian Prawl, tone for days, really, really gorgeous voice. So congratulations to her. I hope she's listening.
All right. Well, we've had a little step down of a throne at ENO, and it seems that some people might be a little bit more pleased with this move than others. Matt, what did you find in your homework on this?
We make it a point on this show not to give the king of slip disc any clicks if we can help it, but we knew that there was some scuttlebutt about this, and I just had to see what he said, and he's talking about the end of his 10 years of destruction at English National Opera.
Gracious,
Stepping
honey.
aside after resisting that move valiantly for a very long time, and that he may now enjoy a, quote, happy retirement attending whatever is left of ENO's performances. You hate to hand it to Norman Lebrecht, but occasionally he is hilarious.
I mean, Normie, tell me how you really feel.
Well, I don't know if that is like the opinion of everybody, but I will say that Opera Magazine's social media, their Facebook post was finally good news from English National Opera. Harry,
they don't like the open letters either, it sounds like.
Harry Brunius is to step down, blah, blah, blah. After more than a decade in the role, a decade of steady and sometimes precipitous decline. I have to say that in Chicago, we have our own person like this. Larry Johnson, the editor of Chicago Classical Review, has had a bone to pick with the former GD of Lyric Opera and always took an
and
opportunity.
Everyone else.
I was going to say, who didn't he?
No, but he really always took an opportunity to take a swipe at Anthony Freud. So now that Anthony Freud has no longer with Lyric Opera, we'll see if the reviews for Lyric begin to improve.
Well, speaking of finally some good news, finally opera was shouted out in Forbes, I guess, and so now it's for everyone. Question
Beyonce
mark?
wore opera gloves, you see, and there's a Maria Callas biopic coming. These two things constitute a trend. People
Yes.
are wearing capes. Very operatic.
That's it.
Nothing like speaking on behalf of the common people than Forbes.
Yeah, let's talk about how a money magazine is going to somehow reach more people than me screaming about this in the corner. But yes, it works. It works. Speaking of screaming in the corner,
Exactly.
go ahead, Oliver. Scream
No,
away.
just like I saw this, that Davine, I think she even said it in an interview that I might have watched. But if you saw The Holdovers, one of the Oscar nominees from last year, the big winner for the entire award season was the supporting actress Davine Joy Randolph. And I didn't know any of her work before that, but she really was.
You didn't watch Only Murders on the Building?
No, she's in that too?
She was delightful.
She's the detective, and she's so funny.
Okay. Well,
So
she was
good.
like the beating heart of The Holdovers, and very emotional performance. And I would love to. And if she sings, let's do it. let's get some Leontine biopics going on here. We need to see her trapped underneath the pyramid at the opening night of Antony and Cleopatra.
What I didn't want to see, but unfortunately did, was the advancement of women in the faculty grooming era of music schools. This, my heart goes out to Jasmine Perry-Grice, this UNC alum who's speaking out about this. To be groomed by a teacher is one thing. To be groomed by a female teacher is... It adds a level. I read the entire post, and it seems like she's tried to go to the correct people for some sort of reprimand with this, and it seems like it fell on deaf ears. So my heart just goes out to her. I hope that the right people see this story, and I hope the people at Rocky Mountain College see this story. And my heart breaks that this was something that we had to learn about, but it's important that we do. And with that super depressing ending to our talkback, let's wrap this show up.
Good call. Bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call is the last thing we usually do on every show. I am going to start with Oliver Camacho.
I have both a good and a bad call. Bad call is that we were having a fight with, let's just say, technology for the last episode. And it's not clear to me whether you all know, the audience, that there was a last episode. That episode is called Shows We Want to See, and it features a free throw with Hugh Montague Rendell. Somehow, Apple Podcasts did not boost that podcast to the top of people's feeds. And so I have no idea if people have heard it or not. So when you get this episode, please check back in your feed for that seemingly lost episode. Good call is that it's really nuts cultural season here in Chicago. Within the span of like 8 days, one could have seen Haydn's The Creation with Joel Harvey, who was like a miracle.
Oh my God, she was stupendous.
Yeah. Rigoletto with friend of the show Javier Camarena and Mané Goloyan. You could have seen Haymarket Opera's Tamerlano, which I saw the dress rehearsal of, was outstanding. You could also have heard a free concert on the river of Music of the Baroque singing or performing music by Handel and Vivaldi. And CSO started their season. You could hear Lang Lang playing the Saint-Saëns' Second Concerto, as well as Benjamin Beilman playing the Barber Concerto and other orchestral delights. There was something to do literally every single day within the past like 8 or 9 days. So, Chicago is a place, people.
Matthew Cummings.
So I think Oliver may have called this TikTok channel out in the past, and I just want to double down, because if you are not yet following incredible coloratura soprano and friend of the show, Catherine Lewick, on TikTok yet, you need to go onto that app, you need to download that app, you need to create an account, and you need to follow it right now, because she posts the most amazing videos of herself practicing, of herself trying out new rep that she's about to premiere, of rehearsal footage. Today I caught a video that is the reason that this became my good call, of her singing the absolutely cuckoo bananas aria of Giulietta from Tales of Hoffmann, that usually gets cut when they're doing it with multiple different singers because it makes the doll song look like a cakewalk. And she handles this passage work so unbelievably well. You all need to check it out.
My good call this week, first of all, to the Bonny Banks of Scotland. Oh my goodness, I just can't get enough. But also, my other good call, speaking of TikTok, I saw on the interwebs this week these two drag queens, Tilda Watersclear and, get this, Creatine Price, performing a Handel piece at the Red Eye in New York earlier this month. Tilda is a trombonist, so they did the trombone shall sound. It is the best thing on the internet right now. If I sweet talk our web folks, I'm sure they will post a link to this TikTok on our site. That is it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio Show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, even though Apple's on our list right now. We're watching you. Get your voice heard and find links to stuff we've talked about on our website, which is operaboxscore.com. That is also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Waddell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is Weston Williams. The new executive producer of OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-host Matt Cummings and with the guest, the lovely Vanessa Becerra, I am Ashley Hardgrave, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you seed a biopic about singers to Hollywood. We are back with an all-new show next week, plus you'll get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more plausible Scottish brogues. Join us!